Xian explains that everybody here is a criminal, or fugitive, and it's always one of the two. The dude then asks if it was assault, or fraud that he's in here for, but says that if he had to guess, it would be something else, and Xian hits him in the face. The guy falls on the floor, and Xian says that he's way off, and if he wants him to tell him, it's because he's in here for murder. He readies his fist before he starts beating the shit out of the dude, and he says technically he didn't kill a person, because back in Neo Soul, only those with power are human. It's nothing special. At the time, a rat just came to steal his stuff, and happened to die, but he didn't know that it was a pet rat. Because as the guy bled out, he tells him that his brother is named Li Jiroyang, and he's dead meat now. Xian was horrified after hearing the name, and explains that if those with power are called humans, then awakeners are gods that are above them. A mere rat like himself actually ended up offending a god. And rumors ended up spreading that Jiroyang was looking for him, and by the time he came to his senses, he had already crawled onto this mine-bound bus. The guy that he's wailing on then calls out to him, which surprises him, and asks if he's done yet. As it looks like his punches are not effective at all, because it was actually Xian's hands that were bleeding. Xian realizes he made a mistake, as the guy grabs him by the face, and throws him to the back of the bus. Xian spits up, and the man says that he should have told him sooner, as he's here for the exact same reason. He might have even treated him like a cute little brother, but he crossed a line this time. Xian starts panicking internally, and the dude tells Xian that Big Bro is going to teach him a lesson, and everybody here surely agrees. As it's now revealed that the dude's actually an awakened one. Though before he gets a chance to retaliate, the bus begins shaking violently as it's thrown into the air. One of the fugitives crawls to the bus driver, telling him to watch where the fuck he's driving, and we sees him just sitting there, stricken with fear, mumbling. And the dude holds his head, asking what he just said. The bus driver's eyes are completely red, and he sits there just mumbling. He's probably just thinking that they're just talking about something else. As the bus is in the middle of one of those giant dune worms, everybody starts panicking, and screaming, trying to get off the bus. And Xian explains that looking back it was always the same cycle, as he's also off the bus now falling into the sand. He says that whether it was a Neo Soul, or when facing an awakened, even being devoured by a sandworm, none of it is unusual. In this world, the strong taking from the weak is natural, so the fact that he's dying is just because he's a weak piece of shit. As the sandworm closes its mouth, he says that it's a very obvious, and cliché story, and he can always imagine it, the fantasy that if he were just a little stronger, he wouldn't be dying like this, but at this point, he's just rambling before his death. As we see his hand still sticking out of the sand, we hear it vibrating as we also notice his fingers all fucked up. The sand continues to swirl until Xian's eyes open widely, and he starts gasping for air. He quickly sits up, and starts to feel a weird sensation going through his body. As he starts seeing landmarks around the world, such as the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, and so on, we see his eyes starting to look as if they contain the desert himself, but we soon see that was a gross understatement. As he gets a view as if he's seeing the planet from space itself, his eyes are now similar to a black hole. He then says the word sandblaster, as we see it starting to form at the tip of his finger. It fires out through the side of the sandworm, causing it to screech as it pierces through it. He quickly makes his way over to it, and crawls out of it, saying that he will survive where everything has turned to sand no matter what it takes. As he crawls out of the worm, we see him coated in its blue blood. He looks over to spot that it's still alive, but to him it doesn't matter, as he will survive. Xian says that he can feel his heartbeat clearly in every single cell in his body surging with energy, and that this is the feeling of an awakening. The worm begins to thrash violently before flying straight towards him. He grabs his hand saying that he'll deal with this shit now, but somebody approaches saying that he's in his way. Xian is surprised before he gets shoved, and sent flying through the air, then he lands in the sand. He asks when the hell that guy got so close. When he looks up he's surprised, as blood begins flying out of the worm. The dude says that he doesn't know what it ate to grow this big, and it's time for him to go back down to the first floor as he raises his leg. He stomps down kicking the worm to the ground. Xian says this is insane. For him to take down a sandworm this easily, this is the power of somebody who has their awakening well established, and he's never seen anything like this. A woman quickly approaches him, and grabs his arm saying that is their captain, Zhang Yongbom. He's just surprised that she got this close, and the woman continues saying that's the fastest time he's ever killed one. Xian asks when she got here, and says that she's incredibly strong despite how she looks as his arm begins freezing. Yongbom says that a sandworm is not exactly a tough opponent. And we finally learn the woman's name is Giselle. As he calls out to her, Xian tries pulling his hand away, and Yongbom looks a little annoyed, then sighs. As Xian tells Giselle to stop it, she salutes Yongbom before leading to her side, and kicking Xian's legs out from underneath him. She slams him onto the floor, and says that she wants to know what this guy's rank and ability is, and it's time for them to find out. As she takes off the bandages on his wrist, she's surprised, and tells Yongbom that he's not actually an awakener. Xian asks what bullshit she's talking about, and Giselle tells her boss to check for himself as he doesn't have a rank insignia. Xian says there's no way an awakener wouldn't have one, and she must be blind. Somebody else starts banging on their little car telling them to stop dragging their feet, and it's almost sunset already. Giselle asks what they're meant to do with him as he'll die if they just leave him here. Yongbom looks down at Xian, and Xian looks a little worried until Yongbom says to throw him in the back as he was probably headed toward the mine anyway. Giselle picks him up, and carries him over to the car as they're driving the Humvee through the desert. The driver asks why they keep running off on their own as it's almost sunset, and he knows they could hear him the entire time. They continue arguing while we see Xian tied up in the back just using his power to make sand spiral up into the air before plummeting back down. He says that seeing the sand move to his will, he's definitely awakened his power, but he wonders why they can't see his insignia, and now that he thinks about it the color is a bit different too. He says the light of a ring's insignia follows the awakener's classification. Magic types are blue, combat types are red, and he's heard there are other types, but the ability to control sand is one he's never heard of ever, and he's able to do it effortlessly. He says his ring's insignia shows F, which is the lowest level, but he can feel that the power he has feels infinite as if it's the desert itself. He starts to smile saying that he'll wait until it's truly his, and hide it, and endure until the time is right. He'll make the entire world his stage, and control it. They finally make their way to the mines, and Xian says that there's even a checkpoint, and it looks normal enough so far. Somebody else tells him to follow, and Xian says they haven't untied him yet, and the dude tells him to shut up before he tapes his mouth up. As they take him away, Yongbom says that something is definitely off. Giselle asks if it's because he's the only survivor, and it was probably just luck so he shouldn't overthink it, but Yongbom says that it wasn't luck. As he saw the damage of the worm, and he wonders just what the hell that guy's deal is, and he should have at least asked for his name as he has a feeling their paths will cross again someday. We see there's actually a city within the mine. And it looks a lot more normal than what you would think. Even Xian says that he thought it would just be a bunch of tunnels, but it seems that people actually live here. The dude once more tells him to shut up, and he needs to be quiet until the supervisor gets here. Xian asks if they're really just gonna leave him here like this. And the dude asks if he wants a bullet in his head before he goes. Xian says no, but he wants to know how he knows that he won't do something here. The dude tells him to do whatever he wants. It's not like he could do anything anyways. After he leaves, Xian calls him an asshole, and says that since he needs to look around, and he's getting a little hungry, but he needs to see if there's a place to eat around here. He spots some food, and walks over to a man, and then notices behind him a poster talking about labor as they want to illuminate Neo Soul. The old man asks if it sounds grand or not, and it's so accurate it's almost funny, and that Neo Soul's energy source is actually mana crystals. Xian asks what he's talking about because if it wasn't mana crystals, what else would it be? The dude points at him saying that it would be him. Rats like him do exactly as they're told, and when their numbers run low, more of them fill up the head count on their own. So what better energy source could there be? Xian says he seems to know a lot, even though they just met, and judging by his age, his peers must be taking a swim in the afterlife about now. The old man says when he gets to his age, he tends to take an interest in everything. Then he asks about how the insides of the sandworm wear and if it feels like going back to his mother's womb. Xian asks if the rumors have really already spread this quickly. And the old man calls him foolish, saying that he'll soon be wishing he just ended up as sandworm shit, because this isn't some place that he can just run to thinking it's safe. And Xian asks what he's talking about. He came here to make money. The old man says that's bullshit. The old man says he'll show him something interesting, and tells him to look behind them. As we see a whole tray full of boxes, Xian asks why he's looking at all this trash. The old man says these are things he's collected one by one over the years. In the end, he says it's the final end of the fools who came here in his future. Everyone who comes here tries to hold out at first to avoid going into the mine, because that's exactly the kind of place a crystal mine is, thinking they'll die if they go in. They desperately sell off whatever they can get their hands on as long as possible, even going so far as to sell themselves. But all they were doing was delaying the inevitable, and it solves absolutely nothing, and whatever they have left in their hands just slowly slips away time and time again. In the end, they all meet the exact same fate, telling themselves that it's easier just be swallowed up by the mine. They say a person leaves their name behind when they die, but trash leaves nothing behind, but more trash even in death. And he's looking forward to seeing what kind of trash he'll leave behind. Zeon throws the meat back at the dude asking how much it is. And the dude tells him that it's 10 sol. Zeon asks if he's crazy, and if he sprinkled gold or something on it. The old man says that everything is precious around here, and that skewer he just tossed away is probably worth 9 sol on its own. Zeon says the meat he used must be incredibly cheap, and he's sorry that he doesn't have that kind of cash on him, and he's obviously trying to rip him off since he's new, but he must have lost his mind if he thinks anybody's going to pay 10 sol. Everybody around them starts drawing their blades, and Zeon says he's sorry but there's no way that he's paying that. They all start to get closer, and closer, and approach him as a group. And then the lights go out. The old man asks if he doesn't think it's strange, and an old man like himself could run a business so openly in a mine like this. As they all start pointing their blades at him, the old man asks what the plan will be now. Zeon slams his hand on the table telling him to calm down. There's no way he has that kind of money on him, and him claiming that this shitty meat costs 10 sol is just absolute horse shit, and that they can talk this out with words. The old man says that he doesn't need to worry as he's not that cold-hearted. They can always make a trade with something else, such as the mana crystal in his pocket. Zeon's surprised seeing that he can't believe the rumors have spread for this too, and the old man tells him to hand it over. He still makes an exception, and prays it fairly for him. Zeon says that's bullshit, and he has no idea what he went through to protect this. Somebody palms his head like a basketball, and Zeon says there has to be another way they could settle this, as there's always store credit. The guy slams his head into the table, as we see blood fly all across his face. He asks the old man how long he's going to stand there, and listen to him, as they should just bury him, as a little brat like this means nothing. We see the blood was actually Bro's because Zeon used sandblaster, and cut his arm smooth off, painting the entire surroundings with the dude's blood, and one of his homies catches his hand. Zeon then uses sandblaster once more causing pillars of sand to fly up to the floor impaling everybody around them. We see his eyes have gone completely mad. At least that's what he would like to do. But instead he's just standing there with a nosebleed, and the dude asks if he's alright. Since he's just been spacing out for a while. He wants to know if he had a bad dream or something. Zeon throws the crystal onto the table, telling him that this is the mana crystal he was so desperate for. The old man looks at it, and is impressed, and says at a glance that it should be worth 100 sol. Zeon gets pissed saying that this is worth 300 at least. The old man explains that everything here is precious. But maybe he should have ended up a sandworm shit. Zeon grits his teeth, and bangs his head onto the table, saying that if he puts his mind to it, taking down that old man is easy, but not yet. He begs the old man to give him plenty of change. The old man says that he will, but he also needs to be careful where he keeps it, as there are plenty of pickpockets and robbers around here. And since it's their first deal, he'll be generous with the change, and he can pick anything he wants from over there. Zeon goes through it, saying that he thought it would be something good, but it's all just garbage, and there's got to be at least something worth picking. The old man calls him amusing, saying that obsession with never taking a loss, and petty vitality, are a combo that he hasn't seen in so long. They then ask if there's nothing else, but something catches his eye. The old man tells him that it's something a caravan left behind a while ago. Zeon says he doubts he'll find anything better, even if he keeps looking. The old man says he takes an interest in the most useless things. Zeon says sure, then asks the old man what his name is. The old man tells him that his name is Klexi, and Zeon tells him that he never wants to cross paths with him again. Klexi says that only time will tell. And meanwhile, Zeon is looking at the hourglass, and he says that it takes about 10 minutes for it to fall down. But that's good enough for him, as he's now in his room in the miner's quarters. He exhales, and inhales a couple times before he readies himself, and he starts to use his power on the sand inside the hourglass. And when he orders the sand to move, nothing happens. He's a little confused, saying that he thought it would be an item related to his awakening. He's certain that it was his first time seeing it, but he got a very strange sense of déjà vu, as if it was prepared for him. It felt familiar like it was calling to him, yet it also felt completely new, and he doesn't know what this feeling is. A dude then kicks the door down, asking if he's the new piece of shit that moved in today. He asks why the hell he's not crawling his way to the mine. He asks if somebody named Big Mono has to come get him himself. Which I'm not sure if this guy is Mono. But Zeon tells him his name, saying he isn't a piece of shit, and he says that they didn't even tell him where to go in the first place, and the dude hits him in the face, sending him flying. The dude tells him to shut his mouth, as he hits him once more, this time sending him into the floor. He then starts kicking him, asking how dare he talk back to him, asking if he looks like a pushover, and he can't believe an unawakened person is really trying to run his mouth, and little shits like them just need to shut up, and take their beating. Zeon begins glaring at him, and the dude says that if he gets it, to hurry up, and follow him as he starts leading him away. Zeon says that he has a filthy temper, and he'll make sure he remembers his name Mono, but also he'll make sure he kills this guy at some point. He heads to the mine entrance of Sector 3, and one of the men greets Mono, and Mono tells him to make sure to give this little shit some equipment. Mono then tells Zeon that the cost of equipment and food will be deducted from his daily wages, and when he mines a crystal to bring it to him. Zeon asks if that's all, and wants to know what the daily wage is. But then flames the dude's lack of an explanation. He then quickly ducks as a pickaxe flies through his helmet, and Mono asks if he needs to be taught how to use a pickaxe as well, as the cost of the helmet is now going to be deducted from his wages, so he should keep that in mind. Zeon gets annoyed, and Mono tells the other dude to send him to Tunnel 972. But the dude goes to say they can't, and Mono asks if he wants to go in his stead. The dude says no, and he starts guiding Zeon away. Mono tells him that he shouldn't even think about crawling out before he mines crystals, and if he does, he will kill him. Zeon tells him to fuck off, but also says yes sir. We back in the mine, and we see them walking along the bridge. The dude says that he is out of luck to think he'd come on the day Mono lost everything gambling. Zeon asks if there's a gambling den here then. The dude says of course, prostitution, booze, and even drugs is the exact same as the city. Zeon says that with idiots like Mono around, business must be booming. The dude laughs saying he's quite bold. Zeon says that pickaxe duty sounds like it's going to suck, and to be honest he is baby skin so he gets hurt easily. The dude begins shaking saying that he doesn't have to worry about getting hurt as there hasn't been a single injured person there, not even one. Zeon says that means they're finally here. As the elevator stops, we see Tunnel 972. He says that he just needs to mine some mana crystals, and bring them back asking if he's right. Then he tells the dude he'll be back soon, and the dude says that he won't be coming back. There are dozens of people who have already disappeared here, and he knows for himself whether they died or what, no one even knows the reason, and he's sorry but he thanks him for going into a place no one else wanted to enter. Zeon says that means they all died if they never came back, then asks the dude why he's leaving him alone in a place like this. He watches as he completely leaves, and starts to get pissed, and says that just because Mono was in a bad mood they sent him to a place like this. And he swings his pickaxe onto the ground, but it bounces up, and hits him in the head before flying down deep into the cave. He quickly chases after it, and walks into a foggy room. He says that he was too angry to notice earlier, but to think there's such dense mana in an underground tunnel is crazy, and the others must not have felt it because they are ordinary people, and the deeper he goes the denser it is. If he were an ordinary person he would have suffered man over live by now, and he wants to know where it's coming from. He then spots something as it's his broken pickaxe. The ground begins to sink in, and he says that it sucks the neck is broken, but he found it, and he guesses he still has some luck. But a red portal appears underneath his feet, and his eyes open wide with fear, and he screams asking what this is, and if this is a portal. His helmet then falls off his head, and bounces by his pickaxe shining a light on the broken pick. We get a flashback to him as a kid in the city, and people are talking about how he's going to die soon as his parents threw him away so there's nothing they can do, and Zeon wonders what kind of life he wished for again. He just wished he didn't have to go hungry, and he was constantly beat no matter where he went. So it got him to thievery since he wanted to be able to dream a little. That is how he ended up accidentally killing that dude, and it forced him to run away in pure terror. He just wanted to live a life without having to worry about dying, and to him that just means a normal life, and that's all he wanted. Some rocks fall on top of his head, and he comes to asking why it's so hot down here. He then realizes very quickly that there's ash below him, and he continues sweating from the heat. He says that if he fell into a portal that means one thing, and that he has made his way inside of a dungeon. As we see a massive volcano-type landscape in front of him. Then a rock bounces in front of him, and he grabs it. As it starts burning his hand he screams before throwing it. He says that this really isn't a dream, that dungeons are places that people usually have to prepare to enter. He guesses that there's a lot of volcanic ash around here, and it's like sand scorched by fire so he can probably use it. But if he doesn't get out of here quickly his lungs are going to fry. He tears off a portion of his pants, and ties it around his mouth, saying that if the dungeon has an entrance, that means it has an exit too. And the most likely location is the highest point in the dungeon, which would be the mountain peak. He says if he just stays here, the heat and volcanic ash will kill him anyways. And right now, with no magic beast in sight, it's his best time to move. He'll take the shortest route and make a mad dash for it. And he hypes himself up, saying that he's a man who doesn't know how to quit. He quickly leaps across a magma river and lands on the other side, saying that was close before it falls underneath him. Desperately, he stretches his hand out and barely makes it on the edge of the cliff, and says that lava can never scare him. He quickly climbs over the edge and starts panting, and we see him getting frustrated, and he starts banging the ground, and he screams, saying that he's going to kill that bastard Mono the second he gets out of here. And him getting angry is just making it hotter, but he reminds himself that he needs to survive this and claw his way out of here and make it back. And if he just jumps 4 more times, that's all he needs to get across to the bottom of the mountain. And he tells himself that he can't stop, and he needs to move instead of thinking. His life can't end in a place like this, and he refuses to let it happen. As he leaps to the next one, we see a giant monster quickly fly out of the lava and eat him whole, and then it dives back down and just goes waddling through the river like nothing happened at all. But we see a little bit of sand flying into the sky, and then it is burning. As it turns out that Zeon has actually used his worker's jacket to make himself float into the air, and he asks how hot it is for volcanic ash to melt away like that. He had a feeling, but he really can control it, and it saved his life. But his grip strength is weak, and he quickly falls onto the ground, and he says that it's way too damn hot. The environment is more vicious than the magic beast, and his nasal passages feel like they've been roasted by the heat and ash, and he can't breathe anymore. As his mind begins going blank, he asks if this is how he's going to die, but he tightens his grip and says that it hasn't even been a minute since he swore he'd survive, and yet here he is almost dying. He hasn't even had a girlfriend yet, and dying like this would be unfair. He widens his stance and starts to make the volcanic ash swirl. He says that he's sorry to the King of Hell, but he's going to have to settle for a big crocodile instead of him. As it starts running straight towards him, he screams, and somebody tells him that he possesses quite an amusing ability. Zeon looks around confused, asking if that's the King of Hell, but instead they tell him that for him to manipulate sand is truly amusing. Zeon looks up surprised as an old man's flying straight down. The guy smiles, and Zeon asks what the hell an old guy's doing up there. The old man reaches onto his back, grabbing his blade, and smiles even wider as he starts to increase his speed. Zeon realizes that something is coming as the man breaks the sound barrier multiple times before he dents the crocodile's head in. The impact is so violent that it destroys a good chunk of the land, and sends magma flying everywhere. The wind alone is almost impossible for Zeon to withstand, and he drops to his knees, saying that he can't hear anything anymore. His eardrums feel like they're ruptured. He wonders what the hell is going on, but also if the monster is actually dead. As he looks up, he sees it completely cleaved in two with the old man standing before it. Zeon can tell that he's different, and he isn't just some strong awakener, he's an existence that's on a completely different level. The old man then walks forward, and breaks the ground, asking what it is. Of course he's talking about his name, and he needs to answer before he counts to 3. As he continues walking forward, he begins doing a countdown, and when he gets to 1, he's standing directly before Zeon, looking down at him, saying that time's up. Zeon stares confused, wondering what the hell he's saying, because of course his ears hurt, and he can't actually hear the old man, and the old dude just asking who he is still. The old man says that if he isn't going to speak, then to just die, and finally Zeon can hear again, and all he hears is to die. Zeon tells him to wait, saying that he doesn't know what's going on, but begs for his life. The old man says he guesses he's not a dumbass mute after all, and asks what his name is again. Zeon tells him, and the old dude laughs, saying that his name is fitting for a dumbass. Zeon says that he must know what his name is if he's judging his. The old man cleaves the cliff behind him, and resheathes his blade, saying that his name is Day Odin, and that is his name. Zeon asks what the hell he's doing right now, and the old man asks what he means. Zeon says that he wants to know why he's calling him a dumbass, and threatening him like this. He's grateful he saved him, but he also didn't do anything wrong. Day Odin says that by the looks of it he got caught in the snare, and he's not going to speak because he's not going to speak. Zeon wonders why he's ignoring him, but asks what that is. The man explains that it's a phenomenon that occurs when the dungeon experiences mana overload, and to protect itself it generates another entrance, and expels mana through that gap. And at the same time it reels in living creatures, and that's why it's called a snare. A normal person wouldn't see it in their entire lifetime, and he has some pretty bad luck. Of course he knows that it's because Mono sent people here to die. And Odin then calls him dumbass again while approaching him. Zeon says that he already knows his name, and to stop calling him that. The old man turns his head saying he'll show him exactly he is a dumbass. He tells him to gather mana into his eyes, and stare. Zeon asks what he's doing, but Odin tells him to do as he's told, and to increase the purity of mana in his eyes, and imagine he's seeing with mana instead of his eyes in the first place, and feel it, as he starts to do so. He sees something. He's surprised asking what that is, and the old man says it looks like he can finally see it. It's a monster with cloaking abilities, and oblivious prey die without even knowing they were eaten just like him. This was the cliff that he split earlier. Zeon can't believe that something like this was right under his nose, and he didn't sense any presence, or danger, and if it wasn't for this old man he would have died without knowing anything. To have saved his life twice he wonders just how strong this guy is, and he asks him who exactly he is in the first place. The old man says he must actually be a dumbass since he already told him his name is Odin. Zeon says that he wants to know who he is to have that kind of power, and where the hell they are. The old man says that it's a dungeon, and it's his hunting ground. Zeon asks what he means, and Odin says exactly what it sounds like. But as for his identity, he should use those eyes, and see it for himself. He says the words crayon, then he starts pulsating, sending vibrations everywhere. Zeon covers his ears asking what the hell he's doing. As birds begin flying straight towards them Zeon freaks out, and then Odin calls out to Zeon telling him that if he's worth anything then he needs to survive on his own. Zeon dodges one of the bird's attacks, and asks why they're so fast. He narrowly dodges another, but gets grazed, and then he gets a cut on his leg as well. Zeon says they're darting around like crazy, and they're too fast that he can't even run away, but they keep only attacking his left side. He raises his hand, and shoots out a sand blaster, but they quickly avoid it, and 4 of them attack him in unison. He says neither his sand nor his eyes can keep up with him, and he wonders what to do, since if he stays like this he's definitely gonna die. Odin already saved his life twice, and if he dies here he's really just useless, and he says that he needs to find a way to see enemies that his eyes can't follow, and he needs to think about it. Because if he dies here like this then he is definitely a dumbass. And I guess this makes him remember when the old man telling him that he'll show him why he's a dumbass, and to focus mana into his eyes, and to increase the purity of it, and to see with his mana instead of his eyes. As he starts to do so the birds continue flying in, but this time he's able to read their attacks, and he creates a barrier around him using the volcanic ash, and starts killing them. He says that he's feeling the mana of the monsters, and he's using his mana to see instead of his eyes. When the monster's mana gets close he's counter-attacking them from the shortest distance. And he wonders if maybe Odin actually saw that far ahead, and knew that he would need this skill, and he wonders what's the deal with the old man as he's fighting multiple of the crocs. Odin's laughing saying this is fun, and it's been a while since he's been this fired up. As he's destroying the entire landscape around them we see him charging up aura into his fist, and he punches forward, cleaving through everything in front of him. Right after he threw that crazy ass punch a giant rhino charges straight at him, and Odin says that it's such a pity as he cleaves behind him cutting it nicely in two. He says that it's such a shame as he was just now getting warmed up, but there's so few monsters in these dungeons, and back in his day they were way more. Zeon says this is insane, and he almost feels bad for the monsters, to kill all of them in an instant like that it's so absurd he doesn't know what to say, but it looks like there aren't any more of them left, at least that's what he hopes. And he knows it's too good to be true as the ground begins shaking, he says he fucking knew it. Something begins flying out of the volcano itself, and begins screeching. It paralyzes Zeon with fear, and he falls to the floor vomiting, and he asks what that was just now. Odin tells him that's the roar of the boss. Zeon asks what that is, and Odin explains that every dungeon has a final boss that serves as the source of the area, and it's the reason he entered this place to begin with. As its wings begin to spread with blue fire Zeon freaks out, and Odin smiles saying that it finally made its appearance, and he came here to hunt this crimson drake in the first place. Zeon asks if it's really not a dragon. And Odin says unfortunately not, but it should still be a B-rank monster at the very least. Zeon says that if it's at least a B rank then that means that it's a force field. Odin pats his head asking how a cripple knows about force fields, and Zeon says he's only heard of them, about how monsters B rank and above have their own unique traits just like humans. Much like the rank insignias of Awakeners, a red force field means that it has a martial type trait, and a blue one like this, as it shoots out a giant icicle straight towards the two of them. Zeon puts his hands up screaming that it's a magic type, and it's way too overpowered. Daeodin pulls one out of Ryu Hanbin's book, and uses cross impact, and Zeon stands there turning into a flight wrap. He says that his common sense and experience up until this point was all meaningless in front of this old geezer's power. As he flies straight towards the drake, his swings knocking its head to the ground, the drake rears back its claw, and strikes straight towards him, but he deflects the attack, but of course it was just a feint, as it grabs onto him, and starts to prepare a breath attack directly in front of him. Daeodin smiles, and slams its mouth shut, and laughs asking if it hurts. He tells the drake not to worry about the pain as he's so personally ended for him, because today is the day of its funeral, as he launches another cross impact straight towards its chest. Zeon screams saying that today's gonna be his funeral too, and he's running away avoiding both of their attacks. He calls them crazy saying that whatever the problem is they should just talk it out. He quickly pulls in some volcanic ash from nearby, and creates a barrier around himself to block the shock waves from their fight, and he tells them that they should move their fight elsewhere because the shock waves are way too much, as he's struggling to even keep the barrier up. Daeodin laughs saying that this is so much fun, and it feels like he's at an amusement park, and he asks the drake if it agrees before stabbing its head straight to the floor. Of course this generates a shockwave as well. Then it flies straight towards Zeon. As it gets closer he asks why the shit keeps happening to him, and he tanks it as it sends him flying backwards. He rolls along the floor, and eventually off of a cliff, and realizes that he's pretty much as good as dead, as his eyes begin to get hazy. The last sight he sees before flying into the lava is Daeodin, and the drake going at it once more. Daeodin tightens the grip on his blade, asking the drake if this is really all it's got, and to think the boss of a dungeon would keep bowing its head to him. The title of boss must not mean shit. It starts to prepare another attack, and Daeodin says that he guesses that he's a boss after all to have a trick like this up its sleeve. It fires that shit out, and it as well breaks the sound barrier, as it flies straight towards Daeodin. We don't get to see what happens yet, but we see the dragon waiting for a reaction until Daeodin tells it to look up. When it does so, a giant attack flies from the sky, pinning the dragon to the ground, causing it to spit up blood. Daeodin lands on his chest saying that he's been hunting it, and cleaning this desert for an entire year, and he needs its heart to feed his blade crayon. So it's time for it to go ahead, and die. It looks as if the sword itself begins absorbing the drake's heart, as the energy from within begins flowing to the blade. As it continues absorbing it, the blade itself starts to rattle until it looks as if it separates, and flies onto Daeodin's back, and reassembles itself. He quickly grabs it out of the air, saying that his sword crayon has grown stronger. Zeon then speaks, saying that for him to be talking to a sword he might actually be crazy, but he took down the drake, so he's definitely strong as hell. Daeodin says that he's surprised he's still alive, and Zeon says that he did almost just die. As his consciousness was fading out, he slapped himself to lock back in, and quickly used the volcanic ash nearby to give him a landing on top of the magma. He himself was in disbelief that he did it so quickly, and he says that he's been getting hit by shock waves from some crazy old fuck, so his reflexes actually improved, which is how he survived. Daeodin says that's not bad for a dumbass, and then the sky itself begins to shatter as a rift forms. Daeodin tells him that with their boss being dead, the dungeon is going to collapse soon, so they better get out of here fast. Zeon asks why he's grabbing onto him, though, and Daeodin laughs before throwing him towards the entrance, saying that he'll see him in a minute. Zeon screams, saying that he's even worse than that bastard Mono, but after he goes through it he is surprised by the landscape change as he bounces along the floor. He spits up sand asking where they are now, and Daeodin tells him they're outside the dungeon, obviously, as the cracks formed by the collapse serve as the exit. Zeon says they could have just walked out, then, and Daeodin tells him to listen up. He has a use for his sand manipulation ability, but as weak as he is now, he's useless to him, so he's going to give him the choice. If he heads this way, he can reach Neo's soul, then he wants to know if he'll go back there, and live the shitty life that he's been living thus far, or if he will follow him, and become better, that he'll probably end up being just a higher degree of dumbass. Zeon asks what he's talking about all of a sudden, and how long he'd have to follow him. Daeodin says that he doesn't truly know, months, years, maybe even decades, and he won't know until they get there, so he needs to make his choice right now. He can go back to his familiar, comfortable life, or throw himself into a gamble with a 99% chance of death, and it's up to him to make the decision right now. Zeon laughs at the fact that he says it's a choice, and then asks Daeodin if he's completely lost it. He wants him to give up a home, a bed, and shade, and he wants to trek to the scorching desert with him. Daeodin says that it's exactly as he said. Xian then tells him that there's nothing more to say, as he's going to go with him. When someone pisses him off, he has to settle the score, but he's far too weak to get revenge on his own. That includes him too, by the way. He's overwhelmingly stronger than anyone he's ever met, and he doubts he'll ever come across anyone stronger than him, which is why he's certain. Daeodin asks if that means he's certain that he's going to die, and Xian says no, he's certain that if he follows him, he'll become stronger than anyone else. Daeodin smiles, saying that he'll live to regret that certainty one day, and it's time for them to move on since they have a long way to go. He's continuously calling him a dumbass. After a bit, Xian's sweating a ton, asking if they can slow down a bit, as they've been walking for 6 hours, and they should take a break. Daeodin ignores him, and Xian asks why he won't say anything. He's not some moody teenager, so what's with these mood swings? His eyes begin swirling, and he says it's so hot, and it has to be at least 120 degrees. The sand's making it so hard to walk, and he's definitely going to get heat stroke, or suffer from dehydration at this rate, and he wonders what to do. Daeodin calls him a fool, saying that he can't even utilize 1% of his power. Xian asks what he means, and Daeodin says that he has the ability to manipulate sand, yet he's struggling to walk on it, and it's pathetic. Xian says that's easy for him to say, as he only awakened a few days ago. Daeodin asks whether it matters, and Xian says he's only in F class, he's not a high-ranking awakened like him. Daeodin tells him to stop talking bullshit, as what does it matter if he's F or S class? People aren't usually just born S class, and even if they were born lucky, he shouldn't give up just because he wasn't blessed. To anyone else, he's been blessed plenty. Xian thinks about it, and then Daeodin gets annoyed, saying that he should stop whining, and figure out how to use his ability. What's the point of having a working body if his head is full of shit? And he tells him that it's his power. Naturally, he should know it best, how to break through his limits, and grow, and how to use his power. But it's something he needs to figure out for himself. Xian starts to tear up as Daeodin tightens the grip on his collarbone. And Daeodin says that he needs to understand if he can't figure it out to consider himself dead, and Xian says he gets it. He then stomps the floor as sand begins flying up around him. He says it looks like the range of sand he can control is about 5 meters, and it's a bit short, but he can make it work. The sand is ankle deep, and if he can solve this, he can save a lot of energy, and if he condenses the sand to make it solid, he has an easier time stepping on it. He says now walking is a total breeze, but it's draining too much of his mana. He can't keep this up for long, and he wonders about concentrating mana on his legs instead. He says that this makes walking easier, but if he does this, it's not like he's using his ability. Daeodin laughs, saying that this is what youth looks like, and he keeps trying without giving up, and that's the privilege that only the young have. He's still only F class, but his power and mana control are definitely at E or D class level, and if it's him, he'll surely be able to do something, but he doesn't say what of course. Xian screams, saying that it's working, and he tells him to check it out. He's only controlling the sand touching his feet, and walking is already a lot easier. He flips him off, laughing, saying that he can't do this shit, and he's walking in total comfort, so what's the old man going to do about it? Daeodin punches him in the skull, and says that he's so damn annoying, following him around like this, and he's just wasting his energy on useless things, as he's going to get himself killed. He tells him they're out of time, so he needs to hurry up, but then he starts to get worried, because Xian doesn't look like he's breathing anymore. Sometime later, Xian wakes up asking where he is, and Daeodin says that he's busy enough as it is, but thanks to him he's just wasting his time. Xian says it's not like he was out resting at a resort or something, his whole body is covered in wounds and injuries. Daeodin throws a piece of jerky at him, and tells him to eat it while he listens, as he wants to tell him a story from when he was young. Back then, even if he was weak, and even if he was worse off than others, survival was not an issue. In fact, protecting the weak was even considered a noble act, and he wants him to imagine that, but as he knows, the world has changed, and to him this might just be common sense, but he just can't get used to it. If he wants to die, he can just lay there comfortably, and if not, then he needs to get up on his own 2 feet. Xian does so, and Daeodin throws another piece of jerky. Xian also realizes this means he's going to yap more, and says that he expected as much, but he's really lived a long time, and he wonders how much time and memories he's accumulated, but still he's eating jerky. He's not even chewing it, he's just softening up his saliva. In a desert where moisture is scarce, he guesses that's the right answer, and he could have told him that beforehand, and rather than giving him a fish, he guesses it feels like he's showing him how to catch one, but it's not like he's ever seen a fish to begin with. And he asks Daeodin for another piece, but Daeodin tells him to shut the hell up. Sometime later, Zeon sneezes, saying he forgot that desert nights are cold as hell. And on top of that, Daeodin kept yapping to his sword the entire night so he couldn't sleep at all, and he might actually be mentally ill. Zeon asks him if he has any water nearby, as Daeodin wrings out a cloth, and drinks some. Zeon says that he kept it to himself, and drank it all, and he was squeezing out the dew that he collected on his clothes. And now he understands why he kept them so spread out. Bro starts licking his arm, saying that he'll get revenge when he gets stronger, but then Daeodin calls him an idiot. Zeon says he's not an idiot, he's just a dumbass, and Daeodin says that's right, asking if he can feel it yet. Zeon asks what he's meant to be feeling, and then he notices that he's vibrating, and he says that it's not just one or two. And when he finally notices, they're completely surrounded by a bunch of monsters. Daeodin says that they're bighorn hyenas, and usually they're nocturnal, but it looks like they caught them right at dawn. And he asks Zeon if he can survive on his own, or if he needs his help again. Zeon instantly kills one, and laughs, saying that he doesn't need his help this time, as he'll figure it out himself. He can survive on his own as they start leaping at the two of them. Zeon readies another sandblaster, and he fires it out this time. He kills 3 hyenas in an instant, and he turns using spikes as a form of defense, impaling the ones nearby. But he's annoyed because there's so many of them. He says that before he gets bitten to death, he's going to run out of mana, and die first, and he needs to come up with a plan. Raw power is not what's important, as he needs efficient attacks, and mana management, and he wants to figure out how he can fight using less mana. He tells himself to think, but while he's lost in thought, one of the hyenas bites his arm. Zeon starts beating it, telling it that he's trying to think. He starts to tear up a little bit, saying that it looks like it put a ventilation hole in his arm. But looking down at the bite mark, he starts to get an idea. The hyenas quickly run towards him, not giving him a chance to think. He says that he needs to put holes in them, and he creates thinner spikes than he usually would, and impales them in a much more efficient manner, each one through their own head. Zeon starts laughing, asking if he really needs to blow all their heads off, because whether their heads explode, or just get a hole punched through them, they're dead regardless. And during combat, mana is directly linked to his life. Panicking, and wasting too much mana will only lead to an early grave, so he needs to use the minimum lethality required for the opponent, and the minimum mana so he is fighting with cost efficiency. He says even the old man is probably having to take them down one by one slowly too, but what he sees is he allows them to just bite onto him, and then he'll flex his arm breaking their teeth. Daeodin laughs, saying that he can't let a dog that bites people live, and all of them right here are going to have to be put down. He starts to smile, and Zeon realizes that he's going to do it again, as Daeodin raises his sword into the air. He says he's going to wipe them all out. He hits the floor, sending out a massive shockwave as the hyenas start flying all over. Zeon puts up a wall to stop himself. He says he can't believe the old guy's putting that much power into it when there's somebody right beside him. As we see, he left a massive crater in the desert. Zeon asks if he's even human, and if that's possible without a skill, but also that he needs to watch his mouth from now on, since one wrong move, he'll be gone. He hears one of the dogs barking, and Zeon looks over, spotting Daeodin stepping on one of the giant ones, saying that it's going to burst its eardrums, and it must be the alpha female, and for an alpha it's making a lot of fuss. It starts to generate lightning on its horn, and Daeodin's surprised, saying that he can't believe it's generating a force field, and that means that it's a B rank or above. It's another blue one, of course, as it shoots out a lightning attack towards him. Zeon screams, telling him to look out, but Daeodin grabs onto the lightning with his bare hand, and Zeon goes fucking cross-eyed, trying to figure out what just happened. Daeodin says that it really loosened up his stiff shoulders, but since the massage is over it's time to die. He kills it with a single blow, and Zeon claps his hand, asking why he was even worried to begin with. It's probably better for his mental health just to stop paying attention to that monster. Zeon then wears one of the hyenas like he's Hercules, saying it looks like he's caught them all, and they should probably get going. Daeodin says that he didn't expect him to still be alive, as he's ripping off the horn of the hyena. Zeon asks if he's taking it with him, and Daeodin says the horns of bighorn hyenas have many uses, and since it even has a lightning attribute, it'll make a fine weapon if he refines it properly. He throws him a weapon, telling him to catch it, and Zeon does so with sand, saying that it's just a dagger. Daeodin says from now on he'll have to procure his own food, as there won't be any more free handouts, and the muscles of the bighorn hyenas are highly toxic, so he'll die if he eats them, but their ass meat is poison-free. He asks why he's just staring at them, saying that he needs to go hurry up, and go get himself some food. Sometime later we see them walking through a new part of the desert, and Zeon's eating some meat, saying that this is great. He's even singing a song, and he says that he's a bit thirsty, but he's got plenty to eat now, and thanks to his new skill, Sandwalk, it's a lot easier for him to get through the desert. And he continues to taunt Daeodon, asking if he's jealous, as he must be pushing himself too hard with his old age. He swings, and Zeon avoids it, and laughs, saying that he dodged it this time, only for him to get bonked on the head with the sword. And Daeodon says that they're working their asses off just to walk, and he's acting up because he has one shitty skill. Zeon asks if it's illegal for him to play jokes, as he's already dying of thirst, and he's shoving him face first into the sand. Daeodon looks away, and Zeon asks where he's looking when he's talking to him, and then he starts to smell the moisture in the air. He says he must be imagining things, but the fact that the old man is looking in the same direction means that there might be water just right over the hill from them, and it might be a real oasis. They crest the top of the hill, and Zeon is surprised, seeing that it's actually here, and he's only heard about it in rumors, and he didn't expect to see an oasis. Zeon slides down the hill saying that it's water. It's been so long since he last seen them. Daeodon clicks his tongue as Zeon runs towards it hastily. He says that he's finally found some, and he puts his head into it. He says that it's real as his head soaking in it. He says that this damn desert is super hot, and for the first time his head feels cool, and he's super happy, but he notices something as there's a weird light at the bottom of the oasis. And he says that it's the bottom of the oasis, and he says that it's somehow making him feel kind of lethargic. Daeodon yells telling him to snap out of it, and starts running over, as we see what it actually is, a giant anglerfish. Daeodon grabs onto Zeon's clothes, and quickly pulls him out of the monster's attack. Zeon's surprised, and Daeodon flies straight in, and draws his blade hitting it back down into the water. Zeon says that shit's crazy, but he also finally got to see what a rainbow looks like, as Daeodon's bringing over the anglerfish. Daeodon explains that it's called a sand angler, and it lures its prey with a lantern on its forehead, and devours them. He grits his teeth, and then hits Zeon in the face, asking why he threw away everything he taught him, and if he thinks that he was a big shot just because he got used to the little things. Idiots like him are the first that die in the desert, and he needs to understand that. Zeon says that he does, and Daeodon sighs telling him to skin it. Zeon asks what he means, and Daeodon says that it is a C-rank monster, and the skin on his belly is soft, and elastic making it perfect for crafting a rope. So he needs to cut it off, and make one. Zeon asks if he really needs a robe, and Daeodon is holding back the frustration to beat him to death, and yells saying that it's not just for him, it's for Zeon. Then he asks how his intelligence is so damn low, as it feels like it's dropping by the chapter, and there has to be a reason, and he must have got hit by a spell that petrified his brain. Zeon apologizes, as blood pours out of his ears, but a little after he says it's changed a lot. Daeodon explains that it closely resembles the fish that used to live on Earth, and this must be his first time seeing one, so he should take a good look. Zeon says that it is actually his first time seeing a fish, and that they're absolutely scary, but he's having trouble getting his knife to pierce it. And Daeodon laughs asking if he's trying to scratch its back, as it must feel good enough that a dead fish would maybe even come back to life. Zeon says that he can do it himself, but this is tougher than he thought. And in that case he needs to change it up. He starts to focus his mana into the blade, and he says that if he infuses it with mana to increase its cutting power, it's a lot easier. And he can whittle down a fin until it's thin enough to use as a needle, and he substitutes thread with the tendons carved from its flesh. We see him actually crafting something, but it turns out to be complete dogshit. Even Daeodon says that he ended up turning a fish into trash. But he says that he has plenty of material still, so he'll do it again. Throughout the entire night he tries, and tries again, and we see him screaming finally saying that it's finished as he holds it up. He says it took 8 failures, and he could actually sell this, and make his own boutique. Daeodon then calls him a dumbass again, and Zeon says that he cannot have his robe. Daeodon tells him to cut this shit, and eat this as he's holding a giant orb in his hand. Zeon asks what the hell that is, and Daeodon says that it's a sand angler's gallbladder, which is a rare medicine, and he should eat every last bit of it. Zeon asks what he'll do if he doesn't, and Daeodon says that he'll die. And he throws it saying that he needs to take it as his arms are getting tired. Zeon jokingly says he wishes they'd just fall off. Zeon then looks down at the gallbladder, and gulps because it does not look good. But he starts eating it, saying that it's medicine anyways, and while it's bitter it's better than being beaten to death. But after a little bit of eating it he wonders what the strange feeling is. He says it's like he's eating clouds, as no matter how much he eats he doesn't feel full. And he should at least finish it quickly. Odin calls out to him once more, saying that it's time for him to burn. Zeon asks what he's talking about now, and he feels it in his core as his entire body starts to feel hot. He quickly grabs his throat, and tries screaming, and he says that it's more than just hot. It's like his mana is going haywire, and it feels like a sun is writhing inside of his stomach, and if this keeps up he's really gonna die. Odin tells him to endure it because everything is like this oasis. And soon he'll vanish into the quicksands as if he never existed. Even there the sand anglers are reborn, and they return once more. And that's how the cycle of life goes here. Zeon tells him to shut the hell up with the shitty sentimentals already, and save him. Odin looks over at him, and of course doesn't do anything, and Zeon screams saying he's gonna kill him, and Odin says that he's trying to sleep. Sometime later Zeon finally wakes up, and Odin smiles asking if he had a good night's sleep. Zeon freaks out saying that he almost gave him a heart attack, and Odin asks again if he slept well. Zeon says he didn't even sleep, he passed out. Odin says regardless he wants to know how his body is feeling. Zeon goes to say it's the same, but quickly realizes that it's not. As he clenches his fist he says that he feels light like he himself was a grain of sand, and his muscles feel tougher, and his mana is surging like a storm. He wonders what happened for him to grow so much all of a sudden. Odin explains that this is thanks to the gallbladder he ate. A sand angler's gallbladder is an unparalleled medicine for those crossing the desert. It grants the strength to endure the sun, and the sand into a caravan that's worth as much as a mana stone. It looks like it worked better than expected, and he congratulates him. Zeon asks if it's okay to give him something so valuable, and Odin says it's because he's so damn weak. If he's going to drag him along he might as well make him a little bit useful. Zeon says that he gets it, and he'll make sure that he makes himself useful, and he'll be called Zeon the Reliable. Odin tells him once more to shut the hell up, and eat, as they aren't leaving until the rest of the anglerfish is gone. Sometime later we learn that it's actually been 4 whole days of them eating, and then he tells Zeon it's time to head out again. Zeon smiles saying yes sir, and they start their journey back through the desert. Sand begins flying on them all over, and Zeon asks if this is a sandstorm. He says thanks to his ability it feels like a cool breeze, but the old man never ceases to amaze him, as he's walking through it like it's nothing. He has not said a word in days, and he must be going through male menopause or something. As they've been walking for 2 weeks straight now, and he doesn't even know if the old man knows where he's going. And at this point they might just be lost. A giant ant appears behind them, and screeches, and Zeon puts a sandblast through its head telling it to shut up, and he wonders how much further they're going to have to go from here. The ant continues to screech, and he's surprised that it's still alive, saying it's sturdier than he thought. He's hoping they could just pass by, but it doesn't look like they're going to get through here easily this time, as there's quite a few of them. He tells them that if they're going to come out to do it already, because if he's late the old man will kill him. He shoves his hand down into the sand, and tells them to die as they all reveal themselves. Zeon says that they're good listeners, and uses blaster once more, and launches even more sand into the air. He says that the days with sandstorms are actually pretty great, as there's more sand than usual, but when he turns around he sees that the old man is already a long bit away. He asks Odin how he could just ditch him like this, and he doesn't have a shred of loyalty, and it's no wonder he's still alone at his age. The ant's still alive though, but Zeon's running towards him, saying surely he didn't hear that, and he's sorry if he did, but then he senses something. We learn that his detection range is within 10 meters. He was always on alert, never dropping his guard because of that one mistake he made previously, and it allowed him to react instantly whenever a magic beast appeared. However, what he sensed just now is different. What he felt at this moment wasn't just a beast, but a pure terror. As tons of ants start swarming out from underneath the ground, Zeon asks how many of them are down there, and where this army came from. He calls out to Odin, saying there's too many, but Odin's sitting on a nearby rock just watching. Zeon realizes that he can't keep crying for him like a brat forever, and there's no way the old man didn't sense these things, which means that this is an opportunity for him to test himself, and whether there are 1,000 or 10,000, in the end bugs are still bugs. He launches countless sand pillars up towards the ants, and we see him desperately hoping that it works, but one breaks through, and goes straight for his throat. He quickly vaults over its pincers, saying that he takes it back, there's way too many of these bastards, and they should fight him one-on-one like men. They continue to swarm him, and we see a massive explosion, but amidst the rubble, Zeon flies out on a piece of sandstone, and he says that this place is just a damn anthill, but he needs to get high into the air, and assess the situation from above, and he's lucky that these can't fly. But then he feels a tug on his leg, and when he looks down he sees they created a tower to chase him all the way up into the sky. He asks how the fuck this is even possible, and it starts to thrash before it slams him straight into the sand. He spits up blood, and starts panting. As he's coughing up even more blood, he looks over at Daeodon who's still just watching. Zeon smiles, and he says that he just needs to wait, and see how he lives through this, and Daeodon tells him that's the spirit that he needed to begin with, and a world turns into a desert. His ability is nothing short of a blessing, and he could have used that power to live a life of luxury, but that would have been the end of it. Those narrow-minded idiots don't even know why the world became like this, and they're just obsessed with illusions. An awakened is meant to master, utilize, and evolve their own skills, not to be some damn factory-made cookie-cutter soldier. And he still can't forget it. But of course, Daeodon's talking about the tragedy from 100 years ago. He says that he was helpless, and tons of people died right before his eyes, his comrades, his neighbors, and even his family. His daughter passed away without him being able to protect anything, and he lost everyone right in front of him like a total fucking idiot. But Zeon is different. He has the potential to become anything, and throw himself into the fray, and cross the line between life and death. And as a result, he'll grow stronger just like he is doing right now. As he's starting to create a new magic at this very moment, he laughs, asking the ants if they can feel it too, that they're all done for. He made an ultra-high pressure compressed sand missile. It's simple, and crude, but it's very effective. He packs in gravity, wind, and every bit of energy he can use. The power increases tenfold, as it's comparable to that of an actual missile. He says this is the end for all of them. And they failed to kill him before he could grow even further, so they're going to lose here. Daeodon laughs, saying that he's getting overly excited. But after a bit, Zeon's not looking that good, though the aftermath of the fight has left craters all over the desert. He gets super excited, and asks the old man if he can see this, since he's going to kill all of them before he gets caught in the pincers of an ant. He turns, only to see there's a giant one directly behind him. He says it didn't make a single sound, and he didn't even sense it. And there's no way he could use a high-level skill like stealth, and maybe it's because he was poisoned. He's been losing control of his mana for a while now, and it must be poison that blocks his mana points. He yells, saying that something like this won't stop him. It quickly kicks him in the back of the head, and when he comes to, his eyes are hazy, and he's now at the bottom of their ant nest. He hears a weird sound, and when he looks over, he sees larvae crawling over towards him, and they start sinking their pincers into his arm. He says he can't move, and at this rate he's going to be eaten alive, but he guesses this is it. And this is how it's going to be for him as his life is flashing before his eyes. One of the larvae is scared, and he smashes it, which surprises the other ants, and he starts to laugh. He says even as his life flashes by, there isn't a single good memory, and this is so unfair, so he refuses to die like this. There's now a second light on his insignia, and we see a giant pillar of sand form in the middle of the room. The ants look a bit taken aback, and it starts destroying their nest, as he shoots it straight up through the ceiling, and he creates even more sand missiles. Zeon then looks down at his insignia, and realizes that his rank has increased by 1. The poison is gone, and his stamina and mana are overflowing. He says that he must have ranked up. Everything is now on a different level compared to F rank. And yet this giant ant does not have a single scratch on it. It smashes into the wall, and he quickly evades by flying sideways. He says it's smashing through the rock like it's made of sand, and he wants to know how strong this thing is. As the missiles are bouncing off of it, he says that he hasn't made even a single dent. This is insane. He can't win like this. No matter how much he attacks right now, he won't be able to leave a single mark on it. In that case, he needs to think of a way to break unbreakable armor. Without smashing it, or without piercing it, he needs a way to rip it off completely. As he starts to send more dust up from underneath it, creating a type of spiral, he says that if he can't break the armor, he'll twist, and peel the thing off of it whole. As he starts to grab onto the ant, we see it has a force field, or maybe something similar, and it starts to shoot out a sound that echoes throughout the entire room. Zeon asks what the fuck's going on. As his ears begin bleeding, he says his brain feels like it's going to explode. It continues shooting out this frequency, and he says that he can't believe it was hiding this until the end. Blood begins forming in his eyes, and he says that if this is how he wants to play his game, whether he dies, or it dies, he wants to see who's the first to give up. And he starts squeezing it with everything he's got, but he feels something snap as he loses control of his mana. Blood begins pouring out everywhere, and he asks what's going on with his body. That must have been his limit, and it's his fault for being so pathetic and weak. As it all starts to go black, Daeodin picks him up, saying he really is extremely weak. And he'll die if he sleeps here. Zeon's just happy to see him, saying that he'll let him have the last hit. Daeodin says that he's disrespectful as usual, but he supposes he's not completely useless. As this wolf ant queen is a C rank, far stronger than him, but he didn't give up, and fought until the very end, and he's earned the right to live now. Zeon says that he can't hear a word he's saying, as his eardrums are completely ruptured. Daeodin laughs as he picks him up from his back, and Zeon asks where the hell they're going all of a sudden. The area around them starts to warp around, and float to reveal a gem of some kind. Zeon stares at it asking what this is. He asks Daeodin, then Daeodin begins writing it on the wall since he can't hear it, and he says that it's a queen's egg, and he needs to eat it. And it's medicine, strawberry flavor this time. Zeon asks if he really wants him to eat it, and if that's even possible. He says he wants to ask just in case if this is going to hurt like the sand angler's gallbladder, or not. Daeodin says he's probably going to die if he eats it. Zeon of course can't hear him. But he says it's fine, as it's not like it'll kill him, and he doesn't even know what strawberry tastes like. He then starts to get excited, saying that this shit tastes gas, asking if there's any more. His eyes start to hurt, as we see spikes forming from his body, and blood begins pouring from his eyes once more. He asks what's happening. We learn it's called organ inversion, and it's literally what it sounds like. His organs are twisting and turning, but we also learn that the queen ant's egg is a lethal poison. Even a small amount will forcefully invert a human's internal organs, and the consumer's organs are pierced and twisted as if by thorns until they finally die from the agony of the inversion. Zeon starts screaming, asking what the hell is wrong with him, and he keeps getting him to eat weird things. Daeodin tells him that he's noisy, and if he wants to survive this crazy world he has to get used to it. Zeon asks how he can get used to this, but I guess that means he can hear him again. Then he starts to spit up a ton of black liquid. He looks down at it, and must think that it's his blood, saying that this shitty life of his is finally over, and he thought he finally had someone to trust, but in the end he was just a dumbass to the Gramps, as he falls face first into the liquid. Daeodin walks over to the queen, and says that he needs to go ahead and find it. As he reaches into its corpse, he starts to mess around until he pulls a crystal out, saying that a beast's mana stone is on a different level from the mine stuff, and this one's a jackpot. Since the ants look useful, he's going to take all of them for now. His sword begins to resonate. And Daeodin says that he knows, but there's no other way around it. If he's weak he dies, and that's just his fate. As he starts to walk away, he looks a bit hesitant, and tells his sword crane that he knows as well as he does that they don't have much time left. Sometime later Zeon slowly opens his eyes, and Daeodin asks if he's finally awake, calling him an idiot. There's a giant explosion, and Daeodin tells him to stop kicking up dust, and being disrespectful. But then he's a little impressed, saying that it looks like he's actually a little bit serious, because he's summoned a whole arsenal of missiles. And he tells him to stop acting out. He starts to float, and continues bombarding Daeodin with attacks, asking why, and as he needs to know why he tried to kill him. The ground itself begins to shake violently, and he says that he will not forgive him for this. He sends his sand up into the air, and uses it to cut the stalactites off the ceiling, causing them to fall straight down towards Daeodin, impaling the ground. It looks like Zeon is not in the right mind, and he asks why he tried to kill him. Daeodin asks what he's doing, calling him a dumbass once more, saying that he knows the queen's egg has toxins that rotted his brain, but surely he can use what's left of it to think. Zeon asks if he really just stood there, and tanked all that without a single scratch. Daeodin says that he's a kid who would die from a single flick to the forehead, so why would he go through the trouble of poisoning him to kill him? Zeon says low-key he's right, and Daeodin explains that the queen ant's poison is a lethal poison that twists and stabs at your organs, but it also flushes out toxins and impurities from every corner of his body. Depending on how it's used, it can be a deadly poison, or a heavenly medicine, as it expels all the filth from your body, and fills that space with mana, and surely he felt it when he attacked that his mana has increased 3 or 4-fold. Zeon realizes what he did, and quickly runs over, hugging him, saying that he's sorry for doubting him. He wasn't in his right state of mind, and he doesn't know how he could ever doubt him. Daeodin tells him that he's a total dumbass, and he gets it, so he needs to get off, as it's gross being hugged by a guy. But Zeon's crying, saying he hates it too, but since he can hear it must have also had a healing effect. Daeodin laughs, saying that a grown man should be crying, and to let it go, but Zeon says that he hasn't cried enough. Crayon starts talking to him, and Daeodin says that he knows, and the fact that he really could have died means that he survived because he was strong enough. Zeon of course is rubbing snot on him, saying that surely he'll forgive him for this, but Daeodin says that if he doesn't get strong fast he's useless to him, and it was a reckless gamble. He picks him up, saying that it's time to get going, and he doesn't want him to forgive him as there is more pain to go. Zeon asks why he's grabbing him again, and Daeodin smiles, saying they're out of time, so they need to get out of here quickly. Zeon says that he's tired of this shit, and outside we see some scorpions going to town on some ant meat. As the ground gets destroyed, and Daeodin laughs, asking how he likes that, as it's surely way faster than walking. Zeon says the shit's way too fast, and he wants to travel normally for once. Daeodin says that then he shouldn't have slept for 4 damn days, and he's so pathetic, and he doesn't know if he'll ever get married, but he spots something. Zeon asks what it is, as nothing's gonna surprise him anymore, but it does, as what they see is a giant-ass tortoise slowly walking through them, and he asks how the fuck something could be so big, as it's nearly 30 kilometers away yet it still looks so big. Daeodin says that they never gave him a moment's peace, and it's called the Mobile Fortress, Archelon. Daeodin explains that it's a turtle-type B-rank magic beast, but its defense surpasses the A rank. They modify the shell, and tame it to use as transport. Zeon asks how the hell they ride that insane monster, and Daeodin says that he should take a good look, as the world is vast, and there are monsters capable of riding beasts like that. As it continues walking past them, Daeodin tells him to witness it with his own eyes. This is some Ark survival evolved type shit. As somebody hops off the top of it, landing in front of them, he says that he wasn't so sure since he was far away, but it really is him. Zeon asks who the hell this is, and starts to prepare an attack, but Daeodin tells him to stay still. And the old man tells Daeodin that it's been quite a long time,